Yeah.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. So we are here today for our first panel of the day, and our panel is on the pandemic's impact on your career, earning potential, and long-term opportunities. And I am so excited to welcome Sally Appleby is joining us, Christine Michelle Carter, and Portia Mount. They're all going to be joining us. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So that you can hear a little bit more from Christine and Portia, and then we'll dive into some questions. And hopefully Sally will be joining us shortly here as well. So why don't we start with Portia? Portia, if you want to introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, Becca. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to Blessing and the Mother Honestly team. I'm Portia Mount, and I'm a vice president at Trane Technologies, where I lead marketing for the North America commercial HVAC business. I am a working mom. I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. And I am incredibly passionate about women's leadership for the last decade. I've also, in addition to my job as a corporate marketer, I've been speaking and writing on the issues of women and leadership. And most recently, co-authored a book called Kick Some Glass, 10 Ways Women Have Career Success on Their Own Terms. So super happy to be here with you today and to be talking about this incredibly important topic for all of us.
Thank you. And why don't we go now to Christine?
Hi, everybody. I am Christine Michelle Carter. I am extremely tired. SJ is a friend of mine. I have no excuse. She is on the West Coast. It's 6 a.m. and it's 9:20 here, and I am just as tired as if I was on the West Coast. I am a mother of 2. I have a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old son, both homeschooling, both extremely exhausting situations, just like so many of you out there, I'm sure. But during the day, I am an author and marketing strategist. I have written 2 books, Mom AF, for moments like this, where I'm extremely tired, but still must work. And Can Mommy Go to Work, which educates children on why mothers work so hard. I advise companies on how to reach moms as consumers and also to how to attract and retain them as talent. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Christine. And Sally, we'll go to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Celinda. My friends call me Sally, so I fully expect you to call me Sally. I am a mom of 2. I'm currently in Portland, so if you see it so dark, every single light is on, but it is 6 a.m. over here. So I'm a mom of 2 identical twin boys who are 12 and virtually homeschooling, so I'm equally as tired. And I am currently a director of talent attraction at Visa. And what that means is I work to design the strategies to attract and retain talent that's coming in. Anything before people hit apply is exactly what I work on at Visa. I'm currently on a leave of absence to dedicate myself to my kids. And so I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you all. So as you can see, we have a great panel of very hardworking moms that are here with us today. And to really kick us off, I mean, we're definitely going to be talking about solutions throughout the summit today, but a big part of motherhood, as we all know, is knowing that we're not alone in this. And so I wanted to allow each one of our panelists to talk a little bit about how the pandemic has impacted their career. So you can hear a little bit of their story to set some context. So Christine, why don't we start with you?
Of course. Because I look the most tired, and Sally is amazing at 6 a.m. You guys have the beatest faces. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I've actually received a promotion. I am a global marketing strategist by day, and I actually received a promotion to a multicultural marketing role with a Fortune 500 company, and I am exhausted from that because in any other sense, I have anxiety, and am constantly questioning things and am a perfectionist. And then I took on a new job and a promotion in the middle of a pandemic. So not something that I would extremely recommend for anybody, as it has definitely been an internal struggle for me to embrace the fact that not everything is going to be perfect, and I'm not going to pick up the job immediately. I ended up, because I've been in global marketing, I was very aware of what was going on in China back in November. So I started to save pretty aggressively so that I could hire a nanny for the summer. And also, once the summer hit, I was like, this is amazing. I don't care if the kids disappear. She can't disappear. Just because it was just such a mental break. But once it seemed like, as SJ was saying, that the pandemic was going to continue, I decided that I had to also dip into savings to get a tutor. And I'm very, very happy that I did so. Best money ever spent, because it stopped me from hitting a point of burnout and just being really aggressive and full of rage towards my children, which is what I never want to be. I have no problem hitting burnout professionally. I do it all the time. I'm the pro at it, but I just don't ever want to have burnout towards my children. So it's definitely been an interesting ride, like I'm sure it has been for Portia and Sally.
I saw a lot of head nods there, and a lot of head nods at home right now too, because we've all felt that kind of like that pent up rage that comes up with being just tired and overworked and overwhelmed. So Christine, I thank you so much for being so honest about that experience, because as I saw everyone's heads nodding, I think they can feel that too. So being able to find ways to mitigate that is really important. Portia, how about we go to you and hear about your experience?
Yeah, Christine, I was nodding because so much of what you were saying feels so familiar. I was in a different role in the company, and I onboarded onto my job in April after coming off a massive project where I was tired from that. And then I started a new job in the company and onboarded completely virtually. And then a month later, we were in, I can almost remember the date. I think it was March 18th. We went into quarantine. 2 weeks later, probably about a week later, my kids were virtual. And I have to admit, the wheels came off probably the first couple of months. Virtual school for my son, my husband's in the medical field, and so he was not home. And so it was me doing 6 to 8 hours of Zoom meetings a day, which I thought was going to kill me, trying to get my son adapted, who was a fourth grade at the time, now in fifth grade this fall, virtual. And then my daughter, who was 4, preschool, was doing, this is ridiculous, right? Virtual preschool is ridiculous. I'm sorry. It doesn't work. And we basically became preschool dropouts after a month. And we just kind of let her run around. I'm fortunate I do have a nanny, and she has a son as well, though, and he was in school. And so we kind of worked this situation where she would come a little bit later in the day. I moved things around on my schedule. But at this, I want to say it was probably about 2 months in when it looked like this was not going to end. And I said, I've got to set some different boundaries. My colleagues have met my kids. We've had several COVID scares in the family where I had to drop everything and get the kids tested. And we are making it work. I will say it is tough. I quickly came to the conclusion that I was not going to be able to do it all. I know we're going to talk a lot about unpaid labor. Running a restaurant out of your house, I didn't realize how many snacks kids could eat in a day, the 3 meals, the bedtimes, and at 2 months in, I just felt like I needed to cut myself a break. So I would say, now we're 6 months in. We've got somewhat of a decent schedule. My kids went back to school. Knock on wood, there have been no COVID scares. And so, I would say the last thing I'll say is the hardest part for me right now is the living at work, because I used to commute 2 hours a day, and it's lovely. I love what Sarah Jane said, is like, I used to get on a plane all the time, and I was constantly traveling. I'm not doing that anymore. It's much better for my family. But the 6 to 7 hours of meetings a day is not sustainable. And I do think that we as corporate leaders are going to need to figure that out, because I don't think we've quite worked that out yet.
The snack thing is real, huh?
Snack thing's real.
Sally, how about you?
So I can totally commiserate with, I call myself Cafeteria Sally every day, like ring a bell, it's time to eat. So my situation's a little different. I'm a single mom, single parent. And so the pandemic hit and it was just us three. And to be honest, we kind of just, they're 12, so I will give them credit for being a little bit self-sufficient and kind of just stepping up to the plate. But we really just, put on our boots and just figured it out. I will say at work, work really got busy. And I think being a part of human resources and trying to keep everyone employed because our CEO made the commitment, we came up with projects upon projects and those projects got bigger. And the pandemic, the first part of it in March was hard. I agree. There were so many Zooms for me, for them, keeping everybody on task. I will thankfully say that in July, I hit a little bit of a panic, a little bit of an anxiety. I was like, how am I going to do this? And they're entering 7th grade. It's clear we're going to, Portland is in it for the haul. We're not going back anytime soon. They just said we're not going back until February. So I put my big girl panties on and called their dad. And I said, we're going to have to split the school year, the week. And so this has been working out really well. We're in week 3. He has them for 2.5 days. I have them for 2.5 days. And, it's been going really well. I'm knocking on some wood, but I will say I feel pretty confident we can get through the next few months together like this. I will also say it helps that I'm not at work too. So we'll see, check back in 2 weeks when I'm back at work.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sally. I think it's really, really important and really valuable that we're talking about single parent families, co-parenting as part of this too. There's definitely different layers that we need to unpack as part of this whole discussion. So now I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about what you're all seeing in your personal and professional circles. So what are the concerns that you have about the long-term impact of the pandemic on working mothers? As you've been talking with folks in your professional circles and your personal life, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? And what's top of mind for you right now? And we'll start with Portia for this one.
Yeah, I think top of mind for me are a couple of things. And I think one is just the number of women exiting the workforce is alarming. I have to say, I think many companies, what Sarah Jane says resonates for me. I personally work for a really progressive company that is very focused on trying to attract and keep women in the workforce. But I think, let's not kid ourselves. I do think this is something we should all be worried about. The economic impact of stepping back out of the workforce for any period of time, it's hard to regain those financial gains and the financial instability that it creates for families. So I'm worried about that. I know several women who have, they've had to leave their companies because they need to be the ones at home homeschooling. Or they are dramatically reducing their commitment.
I think we might have lost Portia for a second.
We did.
Oh.
You still there?
Oh, there we go.
We're still here? Okay. Is that we need to keep women in the workforce and we need women in leadership positions because leadership is where we have power and influence to make the kinds of policy changes that we're going to be talking about later in the day. So I'm worried about that. And then the second thing I'll say is childcare. We cannot get our economy fully moving until we figure out how we are going to care for children when moms and dads and uncles and aunts and grandparents are working. So I want to see, I think companies will need to step into the breach. Many are right now, but I also think we're going to need some policy changes around that to keep women in the workforce.
Yes, completely agree. Sally, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I completely agree with everything that Portia said. Speaking to the women in my network, both at work or, in my very large family, the burden is high, and it's obviously work is very busy and navigating just working in a COVID environment has been a challenge for most. but the childcare, right? And I think a lot of women I know are feeling the burden of having to carry it all, you know, the house, the cleaning, the cooking. And so what I hope that we can aspire as women leaders on this today is that we start picking each other up, you know, doing something. You know, I've gotten into a habit of sending some of my friends dinners, or, you know, anything little that I can do, you know, that isn't going to be breaking the bank, but just to try to help each other out. I think it takes a village. And right now our villages are unfortunately sequestered to these very small groups. And so we're going to have to build these virtual villages outside. And I empower each and every one of you to pick 1 or 2 women that could use it and develop these circles, because we really need a village right now.
Sally, I love that tip. I need to send some dinners, some gifts. I think you're absolutely right. We need to find different ways to create our village, to support our village in ways that maybe we haven't done before, because we're in this virtual environment and just have different needs. So Thank you for sharing that tip. Christine, how about you? What are you hearing, seeing? What are you thinking about right now?
Yeah. So, well, what I'm thinking about right now is I can't stand Sally because she has no makeup and she's a single mom too, like me, and still looks amazing. And I look like
stop it.
So I echo what they say. Obviously, Sally and Portia also, they brought up childcare. I would just add to that paid leave, because there are so many teachers right now, only a dozen states have it. So many teachers right now who have to go back to work. You know, we've seen on the New York Times, the ones who are pregnant and they're still working. You know, they don't have the access to the paid leave, or they just had a baby and they have to get back to school, which is just heartbreaking. We have to solve that and treat that like a public health crisis, along with childcare. Professionally, I find it interesting. I've been doing talks about how to parent during the pandemic and how to support Black women as allies in this time. And it's so interesting to me that even executive leaders at companies will ping me or IM me or email me and say, thank you so much, because I'm struggling and I just cannot seem to bring my authentic self to work and let everybody know that I'm putting parenting first. To me, that is a challenge. Like in 2020, with everybody running around with it like chickens with their heads cut off, and the mothers were all having breakdowns about every 3 days, those women, those executive leaders don't feel like they can bring their authentic selves to work. They're the ones we need to bring their authentic selves, so everybody else sees them as an example. So that's very devastating to me. And then personally, just as a Black woman, this pandemic is disproportionately affecting us. So I'm just concerned about the mental health of so many Black women, with them being caregivers for older family members like me, or them struggling with bringing their authentic selves to work because of all the racial injustice and civil unrest that's going on right now. Aside from the fact that they're more susceptible to COVID from a health perspective. Personally, I'm just in awe at every Black mom and how they're able to navigate all this right now, but I'm very much concerned about their mental health.
That's a really good point, Christine. And I'm going to kind of throw an extra question at you here while we're talking about it. Just about bringing your authentic self to work. What are some of your tips about that you're giving to these executives that are asking about bringing their authentic selves to work or feeling like they can't? What's your best advice there?
Well, usually my advice, I try never to give advice, but I always try to throw data back at folks to help them come to their own conclusions. And what ends up happening is that there's a vicious cycle in the workplace where if these executives and other team members aren't taking advantage of the benefits, then HR decides to stop tracking those benefits because they're lower level, they're not as frequently used, which then means they'll eventually drop off of being available of the portfolio of benefits available to a company. Then the mothers get burnout and wonder why they don't have any resources available from the company to support their mental health. So it's just like it's a vicious cycle. So you have to bring your authentic self to work. You have to, as SJ said, find a network of working parents who can then also advocate for those kind of benefits and actually use those benefits so that HR can understand the power of working parents within the organization.
That's great. Thank you so much. The data piece of it is huge. What Esther was talking about earlier with the ERGs of working families, we might get into that a little bit actually in our next question as we're talking about what you all could see as making the biggest impact right now. So later on throughout our discussion, throughout the summit today, we're going to be talking about employer support, childcare, virtual schooling, policy issues. And since we are the kickoff of all the panels that are happening today, I wanted to give each one of you an opportunity to talk about what you could see as making the biggest impact right now. If you could kind of create a solution, recommend a policy, talk to employers, what would you say as the number one thing that you would make a biggest impact for working parents? And Sally, we're going to start with you on this one.
All right. So if I could wave a magic wand and this would happen on Monday, is I would encourage every single employer to open up childcare for, on-site childcare. I love what Patagonia does. They've been doing it for a very long time. They have, the ability to bring your newborn so the mom can bond. And, if we can make that the standard in America for all, corporate America and, all the little mom and pops that can do, can afford it, that I think would encourage women to stay in the workforce, allow us to still be moms, because I like what Christine said. It is a challenge. It took me a long time to say, hey, I'm struggling. I'm a mom. I'm a single parent, by the way. And these are things that we tend to feel shame to say because you are this high-powered, hardworking executive, and so I think if we're able to just make family a priority, and okay for us to be that way, then I think childcare on site would solve so many things.
Fantastic tip. And thank you for bringing up the example of Patagonia too. It's always helpful for everyone to see examples and to look for, as Jay was talking about earlier, find the benefits that other companies are offering so that when you can come back to your company and give solutions, you have examples that you can point to. Christine, what would you add?
So if we're talking about low-hanging fruit and something that could be adopted immediately, I would switch to 4-day work weeks versus 5-day. I mean, if the U.S. Army can put in their training manuals now that naps are required of soldiers, I think, God damn it, I deserve a nap. I want a nap so bad. That why can't I have a nap today or on Wednesdays and have just a whole day dedicated to myself without worrying about IMs going off in the workplace and emails? And I think that would be what would, we talk about low hanging fruit and quick wins for mental health for mothers. That would be mine, is a 4-day work week.
I saw Sally clapping, and I'm going to add my clap to that one too.
I will tell you, at Visa, we do half-day Fridays during the summer, but we've extended it all the way through end of December. So I do believe those 4 hours on Friday are gold because no one schedules meetings, and so I agree with you. It's fantastic,
and that's pretty common among Fortune 500 is to have that afternoon on Friday. I want more. I want more, and we deserve more. We deserve a full day. I mean, there's so much work that mothers can do and get done. There's statistically, I've written Forbes articles about this, more productive in the workplace. So we could get done in 4 days what it would take a man to do in 3 months, So I think it's not unfair to ask for just one full day each week, especially during a pandemic. I mean,
seems fair to me too. So I agree with you. The productivity, when you use the time that is allotted to you. So if you have shoulder time, you're gonna get it done. And we know that moms can get things done. They've been doing it for years, and we're doing it in the pandemic. So finding a way to honor that and make this all work in a way that makes sense. I completely applaud that idea. Portia, how about you? We're gonna close us out actually with our last big idea.
I have to say, both Christine and Sally's ideas are, I think, are brilliant. And I would say, if not on-site childcare, childcare subsidies, even that would help significantly. A lot of companies don't necessarily want the liability of having childcare on site, but to provide subsidies through health savings accounts or whatnot, I think would be tremendous. But let me add one thing too, because to those two terrific ideas, which is, and maybe it's on that day that we, if we're not all working, it's that Friday, which is an email-free day. email takes up a massive amount of time. I don't know what the latest statistics are, but if I think about the amount of time that our teams, we ourselves spend answering, reviewing, looking at emails, and that has increased. The IMs, the emails, the meeting requests have all increased exponentially since we're not together. And so and this is possible. I think it is possible to declare one day, a number of tech firms do this, email free. And maybe that would be that Friday when people tend to quiet down a little bit. So I'll add that to the big ideas.
Yeah.
I love that too. And as we're talking about this kind of big, broad topic, our panel is a broad topic, talking about the long-term impacts and the impact on your career. And I think all of these ideas are really valuable ways to think about keeping women in the workforce, supporting working families, so that when we think about the long term, we're coming up with some concrete solutions so that we can kind of have that long-term positive impact on women in the workforce. And Christine brought up earlier kind of talking with kids about showing how, like, why moms are working so hard. And I know it's important to a lot of us as working moms too, showing our kids that as moms, we love to work. We love the work that we're doing. And we want to continue to do that in a way that supports our families and supports our careers. So I just want to thank you, all three of you, for sharing your ideas, sharing your feedback and your stories, your honesty. I think all of that is so critical during this time. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the summit to go into more detail about some of these ways that employers and policymakers and individuals can help during this time. So thank you all again, and we will kind of turn it back over to our MC for the day.